This
here.
conference will now be recorded.
Adele, Jack, Mark, Lois, good. Teresa, good. Frank, good. Shannon, Ann, it's a quorum. That's good. So I'll call this meeting to order. This is a working session of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting of Darien, and our job mostly tonight is assign people to committees and also nominate and elect Rules Vice Chair, Clerk, Designated Acting Moderator. Before we get started, I will admit to the challenge of doing our organizational meeting with 100 people on one piece of software. My friends, just forgive me on this, okay? It was a challenge, and we're going to take some steps to try and improve how we do it. Before I go any further, I did want to mention the passing of Karen Diller. I am so sad, but Jamie called me on Saturday night, and you know, we've all been working with her, and the moderator works very closely with the town clerk, and so you know, I'm just trying to get my breath. It's just a shame. He was just a great person. So I will make a formal announcement at the state of the town and everything, but I wanted all of you to know because it's known now. And I know the folks in town hall know, so that's good.
Seth, is it appropriate to make like a moment of silence or something like that at the RTM meeting in honor of Karen?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to propose that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely do that, and have some statement too. Read something, a statement. I haven't had a chance to really prepare it, but something about her and about working with her, which was just great.
I mean, we should also mention that we've been working with her even when Donna was the town clerk. I mean, I worked with Karen now for well over 10 years on various things. I'm devastated by that.
Yeah, it's I just felt it. I just wanted to let you all know. I didn't want you to find out. You may have found out other ways, but I wanted to let you know. And I'll have something to say in addition to asking for some silence, a moment of silence.
Thank you.
The technology that we're working with is not plain vanilla, and we have so many people that we're trying to manage on it when we do one of these meetings. I'm forming tonight a technology subcommittee to help deal with the different types of technology that we have and to just study what's there, and then how do we best work with it, and what are different options that we may have that make, you know, that make it easier to work with it. The other thing would be to just look at different systems. There are different meeting systems, and I think this committee could do that. Look at different systems to see if which ones are best for different types of uses. And finally, but perhaps not totally inclusively, but at least one other important thing that's going on is a company called Blum Shapiro has just done a technology assessment of the town of Darien, and I think this committee could look into that and see how it might impact the RTM and impact what we're doing. I asked Lois Schneider gave me the idea, and I think it was a good one. And of course, when she gave me the idea, I immediately said, well, then I guess you'll have to run it. So she graciously accepted that. She said that she would run it. And of course, I did talk to Mark Adeletta and asked him if he would also be part of working with it. And he said yes. And then, of course, we've been helped so much by some of our own Rules Committee folks that I actually thought, well, Michael clearly would be a person that we would want to include. So Michael has agreed to play in it too. And I think 3 is good. If there are others of you who just have a driving urge to get into this, let me know. But I think the 3 will be just great. They report to me, and I will, make it.
Seth, I'm speaking up now. First of all, this isn't on our agenda. And while I appreciate the committee, it's not on the agenda. Number 2,
Yeah.
I think that it shouldn't be reporting into you, but rather should be reporting into Rules, the committee itself. And I think that it would be appropriate because I like the idea. I heard about it earlier today, but I think that we should vote on it to give it some substance. But also, I'd like to see what the charter or what the goals are and some of the things like that before we just say go out and do certain things. So, that's just my 2 cents on it. So if anything, this probably belongs in the 4 or 5 areas that we are talking about after the assignments of committee. And definitely, since we have not elected the vice chair, standby moderator, or the clerk, I think we should do that first and then maybe come back to this.
Well, as moderator, I can appoint the committee. And
as moderator, you're also supposed to, if you're changing the agenda, to ask for a change in the agenda. I didn't hear that.
It's just an announcement. And that's well within the purview of being able to do it. But I hear what you're saying.
You and I have a difference of opinion on that.
Yeah, I understand. Now, the next thing is nominating and electing the Rules Vice Chair. And can I have a nomination for that, please?
Seth, it's Lois.
Lois,
I would like to nominate Monica to be vice chair.
I second.
The second. Are there any other nominations? So can I have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second? Great. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
motion passes.
Aye.
So
Aye.
now we'll vote on,
Seth, there are a number of people that have their phones muted that we can't see.
the only ones that have their phones muted are guests. Well,
Okay,
our guests, yeah.
thank you.
Okay. And just all those in favor of Monica for vice chair?
Aye.
Please?
Aye.
Aye.
Just put your hand up, it'd be great. And
You can't see us.
Well, I don't have to, all I have to see is the hand. Okay.
On the phone, I don't know how to
hand
do it,
to
but
put
on the
up.
phone, I don't know how
Sorry.
to do it, but my hand's up.
Okay.
Yeah, me
Opposed?
too.
I see none. It's unanimous. Terrific. That's great. Now, nomination for designated acting moderator.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Yes,
I
Monica,
nominate Lois Schneider.
we have a second.
Because the signal.
Second.
Okay, Patty?
No, I
Um,
was not, I was doing a second.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
I heard Monica and I got you as a second. Great. Any more nominations? Okay, motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Those now voting for Lois? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Hey, congratulations, Lois, that's terrific. And now for nomination for clerk.
I'd like to nominate Mark.
Yeah,
Mark's not smiling over there.
He is now.
If nominated, Mr. Adeletta, would you accept the nomination?
Absolutely, sir.
All right,
Yes.
great. Terrific.
Happy to do it.
Great, so we have
Second.
a second, thank you. Any other nominations? Move the nominations be closed, please.
I move they be closed.
Okay, in a second.
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 Okay, all in favor, close the nominations.
aye.
I see
Aye.
hands there. All right, so all in favor, Mark, say hoorah.
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 It's unanimous. Nice. Thank you very much, Mark.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll move to assigning RTM members to committees, and if we can have the, oh, look at that. I tell you, we're not used to anything quite that beautiful. For District 1, we'll start there. Who, Patty, you gonna do? Lois?
Sure,
Patty.
sure, I'll do it. So I'd just
Uh,
like to say,
Excuse me, hey, Patty, just
Yes,
a second.
ma'am.
Can I ask a question before you start? This is Adele Coniff.
Yeah.
I've lost the lower half of this spreadsheet, so I don't know. Somehow an adjustment was made and I can't get the bottom half of it back. I
Yeah,
don't know if it's me or if it's,
Does this scroll?
No, you're not alone.
Let me stop sharing and restart.
Okay.
Oops, where am I?
thank you, Lois. Or Adele, I'm sorry, Adele. It was easy for me because I was District 1, so I didn't need the lower half, but I was wondering how y'all were gonna do it down in District 6.
we had it before, but hey, now I don't see how to get back to it anyway. So there you go.
Is that better?
No,
Yes,
because
it is.
it
No, I
doesn't.
still don't have the bottom of it.
Right.
Somehow I've repositioned. Yeah.
We're just missing 6 on,
There we
yeah,
go.
now we
Yeah,
have
that's it.
everything but missing the top. Yeah, we're there. When we have to go to 6, we should move up.
We can scroll up.
That's what we're gonna have to do.
We'll
Yeah, we
scroll.
can.
Yeah.
Okay, would you like me to start, Seth?
Yes, please.
Can't scroll.
Okay, so Patty Baumgardner and Lois Schneider represent District 1 on the Darien Rules Committee. I'd just like to personally say this is normally my favorite rules meeting. I feel like it's the NFL draft. I bring out my hat. Remember Mark Adeletta? We were sporting, different college hats
LSU
last year.
and
But
Clemson.
be that as it may, it feels a little anticlimactic that we're all in in Zoom. So I'm going to just cut to the chase and begin. So I'd just like to say that we are very happy that we were able to get 14 out of 17 their first choice within our committee. So that within District 1. So starting with education, we have Butler, we have McNichol, and then we have a new person who joined. We had 3 new people this term, and so we've added Holly Mitchell onto education because it was her first choice, and we know that that is an important committee. Going on to F&B, we have 3 people returning, Louisa Brockman, Jenny Schwartz, and my buddy Bert. Brad Patelli retired from the RTM, so we had 4 spots, but we are now down to 3, which I think is probably a better number across the board. For Parks and Rec, Sarah Baldwin had been asking to be on Parks and Rec for over 5 years. And this was an opportunity since we think someone was coming off of Parks and Rec in a different district, and there is still a lot of work going on at Parks and Rec. We decided to add a 3rd person onto Parks and Rec. So Sarah Baldwin, I will be returning on the committee, and my buddy Diane. And so for PZ&H, Amy Barsanti, we have as returning. And then we have another new person who has joined our District 1, Reed Barthold. This was his 2nd choice. His first choice was another committee that was very filled. So we were able to get him the 2nd choice. When we move down the line to Public Health and Safety, which I always call the Cruise Committee, we have Colin Kelly returning, and we have Lois returning. We did have someone else put this as a higher choice, but we just felt like it was a really pretty filled committee, and that we wanted to make sure we had even representation across the board. So we have that person, which is Casey Massey on Public Works. And I spoke with her. She was fine with that. That was on her list as well. That was one of her choices. And then Patrick Keene returning to Public Works. And then finally for TGS&A, Frank, where are you? We have 2 people coming your way. So we have Derek Lublin returning, and then we have Priscilla Wong, who is our 3rd person who is new, who just joined our district. So that's it. Batter up.
Great, comments? Okay, we'll do them all at once, but do comments as we're going along, okay?
Mhm.
Okay. So District 2,
Monica?
or
I'll do it because Mike doesn't have a screen. We were happy to be able to place all of our district members at their first choice. I can go through the names with you, but it's Clara and Barb Thorne are on education. F&B is James Howe, Bob Lyons, Iris Mix, and Stacy TA. Cara Bonwalk and sorry, Cara Bonsack, I said that wrong. And Cheryl Russell are on Park and Rec. PZ&H is one change. Liz Bacon moved from Public Works, I'll miss her, to PZ&H. And Mike Wheeler and Mike Castle will be on there. Mia Handler and Susan Handler will be on Public Health and Safety. I will be on Public Works. And Will Cusack is returning to TGS&A.
Okay.
There's one more, you listed one more person on the spreadsheet for PHS, Public Health and Safety, from 2.
Penelope Wilson.
Yes, I missed her. I didn't hear you. Okay, that's a 3. All right, thank you.
And I have a question. Is only one person on Public Works
Yep.
and one on TGS&A? Do you have open slots, or is that the way you've allocated?
Yep, that's the way we allocated it. We do have 4 over on F&B, but it's felt that those are very valuable members for F&B. And when new members join the RTM, we are hoping that they'll look at TGSNA and Public Works as committees to join.
Monica, how many more people will you need?
We had 12 last year, and but we had, I would like 2 more, but we will be okay if we have.
No.
No, the district, how many in the district, Monica?
She's full. You're full. That was the contested district, 2. She's
Okay.
full.
Yeah,
But
we
what
have,
Monica's
so you
saying
have-
is she's hoping the rest of us can fill it in.
yeah.
We lost 1 delegate.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Three?
Other comments?
Adele, do you want to do it?
Well, I have no speech, Jack, so I will read them out. How about that? Education,
Works for me.
Mazurk, okay, McGowie and Washenko, that stays the same. F&B is Davis, Lane, and Yarnell, that stays the same. Except for it's down, it stays the same.
Adele, don't you
Parks
have
and Rec
three
is
on education? Adele, do you not
Say
have
that
3
again?
on? Do you not have 3 people on education?
Yes, we have 3.
Yes, we do.
Washecker as well.
I just didn't
Yeah,
hear
thank
Rosecca's
you.
name.
Marusik, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Marusik, McGowie, and Washenko. 3
Okay.
fine names to pronounce. And F&B was Davis, Lane, and Yarnell. Parks and Rec, Coniff and Sue Ellen Mitchell. That stays the same. PZNH, Minnick and Zimmerman. Public Health and Safety is Giordano and Moore and Woodbury. And Public Works is Golis, and the TGSNA is open for, we will have caucus in a week, and we will fill it then.
Everybody had the same. The only 2 movements we had was Scott Zimmerman wished to go from TGSNA to PZNH, and we had a resignation post-election, and so Scott filled that post that was on PZNH. Everybody else is on the same committees they were on the prior year.
Jack, who resigned
I-
at post-election?
Okay, that's another name to Kazim.
Daisy. Catherine
Thank
Daisy.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
We had go ahead. I think that's it. That Jack and I were talking, and we kind of were looking to, in this crazy year, that maybe staying the same was not a bad thing, pretty much. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Okay.
Just that you didn't mention Rolf for Public Works. Rolf Olben is also.
So that
No, he's not
not
ours.
from
District 4.
he's not 3, he's 4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's
I'm
4.
sorry. I jumped ahead.
Next.
I will say that our Public Works representative had 100% attendance.
Very good. All right. And any other comments on 3? Okay. 4, Frank or Joe? Frank, I guess.
No, thank you. District 4 is very happy to say that everybody got their first choice, that we had so many returning members or incumbents. They were serving on the same committee that they served on before. We had 3 people. As you can see, Bot and Branca are on education, and Jan Raymond is on F&B. Other than that, we have 16 of 17 members selected, And when we caucus, we'll come up with the 17th person. All told, Joe Michelli and I are very happy with the way this is lined up.
Rick, you have 3 on education,
You have Lisa Fiore as well on education.
And Fiore, right?
Yeah, she's in bold. She was on education last time. It's just sort of a fluke on the chart. She's an incumbent. It shouldn't have been boldface. Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
just ask that everybody
Any-
silence their phones? We're having a lot of feedback. Thank you.
Any other comments on 4? Okay. 5, Ann or
You want me to, Mark?
Mark?
That'd be great, Ann.
Okay.
I'll add in if anything needs to be added. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Adelette and I are pleased that everybody got their first choice in District 5. We have 3 open seats, which we hope to caucus in when we have our caucus. So we will, again, I'll be allocating those at future meetings. So on education, I am on education, and we hope that when we caucus in a new member, we will add that to the education committee. For F&B, we have Bill Smith and Mark Adeletta returning. For Parks and Rec, we have Lindsay Kelly and Sheila Sherwood. Sheila was on education and then asked to be moved to Parks and Rec, so we were glad to be able to do that for her. On PZ&H, we have Kenneth Fiveson, who was on last year, Jen Moeller, who was on Parks and Rec and wants to try a different part of the town committee, so we moved her to PZ&H, and Carolyn Bain, who has been on PZ&H for a while. On public health and safety, we have Megan Kilcourse, who is our new member. We're pleased to have her on that committee, and Matt Patrick, who's led that committee for years. On public works, we have Terry Duffy, and the inestimable Cecil Wade will be on public works. And on TGS&A, David Bain, who's been on there for many years, and Harry McLaughlin.
There we go. 2 attorneys. Outstanding. Comments? Okay.
And I just want to say you're making Lois and I look bad when I said we had 14 out of 17 got our first place. But I also want to say that our district was filled, which doesn't always happen for District 1. So that's why, the newcomers didn't get their first spot always.
Right.
But good job, Ann.
The 3 that are going to caucus on, I don't know whether they'll get their first choices, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And any other comments on 5? Okay. District 6.
Hi,
Shannon?
it's Teresa and Shannon here. It's Teresa. I'll do the talking. So this was an interesting assignment for Shannon and I this year. So for the second year in a row, education and P&Z were our most requested committees. So so we basically were able to give the first choice to most people, except for one of our new members, Chris Taylor. So, and unfortunately, his first choice was education. His second choice was P&Z. Unfortunately, he's getting his third choice. I felt bad that we had to do that. It just has to do with how many people asked for things. So on education, it'll be me, Liza Lucas, the 2 of us have been on it for a few years, and Tara Worm, who is new to the RTM, and she is very well versed in education, is already attending Board of Ed meetings as a CDSP rep for the high school. So she's a perfect fit into education. She'll fit in seamlessly. F&B, it'll be Peter Orfanos and Barry Baldwin. Parks and Rec, Shannon Silsby, Bill Van Loan, and Chris Taylor, who is new. P&Z, it'll be, yeah.
No, I was saying great. We can use another person.
P&Z, it'll be Amy Chickles, Caroline Luz, and Susan Lauritsen. Public Health and Safety, it'll be Virginia, I can't quite sure how to say her last name, Camano, And actually, Rob Werner will be moving to public health and safety after a few years on TGSNA. He asked to be moved to a new committee. Public Works will be Frank Edelman and Richard Poley. And then TGSNA will be, so we are caucusing in 2 people for the 2 spots we have left. And we are going to be putting them on TGSNA because those are the open spots. We had tried to hold a caucus last week. We knew we had these open spots. We even knew by the election that we had 2 people who would want to caucus in. Caroline had tried to call a meeting, and we were told we had to wait until November 23rd. The goal had originally been to caucus them in before this meeting so that they could give us preference sheets and we could do this in fall. Shannon and I, we were very torn on this because one of the people caucusing in is Janet Grogan, who, as we all know, has been a longtime member of the RTM, but she has to caucus in back into District 6. She had gone from 6 to 5, and now she's caucusing in to 6 again. We do know her first choice was education. We just had a hard time holding a spot when she's not caucused in yet, which is why we really had wanted to hold that meeting prior to this one. So I just wanted to put that out there right now. So that's where we are at District 6.
All right. Okay, other comments on District 6?
I have an overall question. We worked hard at putting 2 people on all, at least 2 people on all the committees. In doing that, some people got some lower level selections. If that's not a strategy that other districts are using, then next year we're going to have to work things differently. So I guess I have 2 questions. One, Monica and Frank, how do you feel about having smaller committees? Does that work for you all? And are you okay with 1 person from districts? Just to get some guidelines for next year, since those 2 committees are the ones that people have single people on.
Well, we should have representation on it, but sometimes it gets jammed up as we've had our earlier discussions. So I'm really not in favor of setting up a rigid structure. We kind of know what we should do, and sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but it works out for the best in the long run.
I would agree with Frank. And plus, even though our committees are small, I happen to think Public Works is the best committee. So because we have the greatest people. So shout out to all the members that wanted to stay on Public Works. And but you know what? If you get new members and they want to come and join us when you caucus in, we would love to see new faces. Always nice to open it up.
Lois, I will add for what it's worth that in District 5 we did look, and we usually do strive to have at least 2 on every subcommittee. In this instance, we saw that Education A was pretty well subscribed, but B, we had nobody that had it beyond Ann who had education in their top 3 and hated really to go that deep. If people felt that, I don't know if they felt that strongly, but at least preferenced not in the top 3. So, but as a general premise, I don't disagree with your thoughts.
I know we had this conversation last year. I think that if we can spread it out and there's interest to do that, that's good. However, you know, I looked at everybody's attendance sheet. I saw some were better than others. I think if we can assign people to things that they're interested in without getting too much outrageous, you know, like you can't assign 5 people into an area. But I think if you get people into committees that they're interested in, they have a greater chance to make sure they're attending meetings. And that's always been my philosophy. So when people are interested, plus there are different things that go on, you know, what's hot in town. So this year we saw a tremendous interest in PZ&H. And there may be reason for that, but you know, other than that, I've seen these committee sizes fluctuate over time simply by what's going on in town.
I will just echo Jack on the point about if people really, I agree that if they really want to be on a committee, they'll make that extra effort to make all the meetings. The other thing is, as we've talked about before, committees like education and FMB and are high maintenance committees in terms of you really are, there seems to be a lot more meetings, both tied to your own meeting and to your so-called commission or pair meeting. And then it depends. With Parks and Rec, we had a lot of meetings this year. Maybe sometimes in the past, there might not be as much as Adele will say. And so maybe P&Z will have a lot more. So I just, you know, I agree that a balance is good, but I also think in that one occasion, because there's one district that has 4 people on F&B, and I was going to question that, but all 4 of those people do a really good job for F&B. So why move them?
This is Adele. I would like to just say one thing, and that I think that you have to be careful that committees don't get too big. And those of you that have talked to me have heard this speech before. I found that in the budget meeting, that when one committee was a lot larger than other committees, and it can become like a voting block or a lobby group. And in our medium right now, that has more effect, I think, than perhaps it normally would if we were in person. And so I am actually support Lois's idea that I think it should be a little bit more balanced, and we should just pay attention that committees don't get too large.
Well, and Adele, you and I have had this conversation, and Mark was
Yes, we have.
You know, the first recommendation for what we were going to reduce on the Board of Finance's own contingency started with one number, and it was negotiated and spoken to with, and ended up at a completely different number. And Mark, I'm sure you recall that. To where it ended up being
Jack,
100.
we don't have to relitigate it, Jack. It's okay. It's okay. But I
Right.
do think it
But
does make the point that it's large.
So I'll make a motion to vote on the committees as is.
I have one other concern here, folks.
Okay.
TGS&A has 3 openings on it, which would tend to, they're green in the sense of not heavy on experience. And TGS&A can be an important committee. We got the Board of Selectmen meeting tonight to start talking about charter revision. And I can just smell something coming down the pike here where we're going to keep Frank real good and busy. And you're going to want, you know, some talent, maybe additional on TGS&A. I'm open to your thoughts about that.
You got a lot of lawyers on there already.
Yeah, I first think that the core that's there is rather experienced and very competent. I also think that adding even 3 or 4 new members in there potentially offers a new perspective. So I'm not worried about that committee. I'm not worried about what might be coming down the pipe, because I think that there'll be commentary into Frank's committee from others based upon some of the things that I know I saw and have heard from others. So I'm not worried about TGS&A. I will say, for anybody who's bringing somebody on, and I've spoken to some of the rules members, F&B cannot be 18 people. It becomes unmanageable. So, you know, it's 17 now. I think 15, 16, 17 is like the max that can be in there. So in certain parts, I agree with Adele. but for different reasons. So anybody who may want F&B as their primary, can't add anybody else to this committee.
And then District 2 should be thinking about that for next year then.
Well, I think as long as somebody re-ups, all right, and these three people have re-upped, Bob was new last year, had 100% attendance, and the rest of them are significant contributors. But over time, as people move to other committees or leave or whatever the case might be, we will reduce. But anybody who wants to re-up to this committee has expertise. And quite honestly, we had 11 meetings. That's not counting all the meetings that were required to go to or listen to for the two budgets for the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education. And that's not counting the meetings that people attended for the Board of Finance, or at least follow up on the Board of Finance, as well as following up on other Board of Selectmen meetings as they occur on Board of Education. So we meet a lot. And so having a larger group that can cover for us is a valuable initiative.
So what's your number? What's your drop dead? 18?
No.
17?
I think right now that
What's the over under?
16 to 17 is the drop dead. So nobody else added on for this year, and we'll talk about next year if anybody comes off.
So Patty, just so you know, the minutes reflect 17 is the over-under.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Put much better, Mark. I appreciate it.
I just want to say you've all done a great job, and the dialogue and everything has been good-hearted, but very professional in putting this together. It is not a plain vanilla task. It takes some thinking, and I think everybody did a lot of good work there, figuring out how to get everybody on. It's also not a perfect process. We know that. And I think Jack's point on reducing the size is a good one, and we can put that in the hip pocket to remember when we come about this again. And there may be opportunities in the course of the year to make adjustments as well. Not normally what we do, particularly with F&B.
You can make an adjustment. That was charted. If you cannot change committees during the course of the year, that's already been determined on another issue from somebody else, which we're not going to relitigate.
No, all right.
I think Seth just meant if somebody retired off of it, then you're down one. That's all he meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
No, not going to try and start from ground zero, Jack. I got you.
Thank you.
Any other comments then?
Seth, with
Yes.
Cecil, would you be able to send me the grid as it appears on the screen? The one
Yes,
on
of
Google
course.
does not match.
Yes, correct.
You probably have the wrong link. I only sent this link to Mike. I thought he was sending it to everyone else, but yes, I will send this to anybody who needs it.
Sure, thank
All
you.
of us, please,
Mark,
thanks.
if you get it to the clerk, it's going to come out in the minutes, so you'll have it. So let's
Okay,
get it.
perfect.
Mark. Right? Okay.
Mark, I'll shoot that to you and you'll take care of that then?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, I'll give that to you in
Just
minutes.
texted it to you, Mark.
Can I have a motion then to approve the slate, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the slate for the new season.
And I'll
Okay.
I
second.
second.
There's a second from Jack. Okay. Ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you see the hands? Hands is about, well, pretty much except for Adele there.
No
You
hand.
guys-
There's no hand.
I'll raise two for Adele.
No, Jack has put up two hands. Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
There we
Welcome,
go.
Adele.
Opposed, please? I don't see any opposed. Abstentions? and I don't see any abstentions, so it's unanimous. Thank you. Nice.
Seth, what?
Yes,
If I can interrupt, who was the second on that motion? Apologies, I didn't catch it.
Jack.
Jack?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Next item is setting the calendar for 2021. I sent you out a draft just so you'd have something to work off of. As we're starting off, we have the State of the Town on December 7th. I've looked at how to set that up and what we can do. You have to have the public has to have the ability to hear what's going on. So what we can do, there are different ways to handle that. One way is to have the entire thing virtual, but broadcast out over channel 79. I talked to Jim Cameron about that, and he can do that. So he can broadcast the State of the Town live, and that gives the ability for the public to hear what's going on. You could also have a situation where maybe you have the presenters presenting in the auditorium. You could have a camera on them and maybe myself there to introduce them. So that's another way of giving the public a visual and the ability to hear what's going on live. They could come into the auditorium. My thought was to try to just keep it as virtual as we could because we've got the spike going on. And you know, the idea of getting people in a room, I just thought, well, let's if we can do it, let's try and have it absolutely virtual. But I'm open to suggestions, folks. This is this is not what I would call a absolutely clear, defined way of going about it. If there's some thoughts about it, please. Okay. So I don't.
Wait. I have a question from Mike and Cecil.
Yes.
Is it possible during a channel 79, showing to move from one room to another?
No.
So you could have somebody. No.
No.
Okay. Answer the question.
So what I'll do is
I'm not really clear what you're asking.
Well, let's say the Board of Selectmen presented at room 206, somebody else presented down at the auditorium, and so they could move in and out of rooms so it was safe. And it's just which camera is showing what's going on. That was the question.
Well, I don't want to. I don't know who said no. Was it Mike?
Yes, I said no in terms of producing one broadcast out of multiple rooms in a pandemic when people are supposed to be reducing the amount of time they spend out of home.
In this situation where we've got folks presenting, to me, I would just as soon have it all virtual and be able to show the people as they come up. It would be broadcast over the television. So we've met some of the requirements placed on us. I just think in this
you had said Q&A was not part of the format anyway.
Right.
Correct.
Right. It's not required. And we never have done that. I mean, the RTM, I guess, itself questions, but we've never done that. It's a straight up presentation generally, and so each person comes forward, makes their presentation, and then the next one is done. That's the format of the meeting. It's presentations.
Do the people who will be giving presentations at the December State of the Meeting, did we ask their input? Like, would they prefer to get up and speak at a podium? I mean, many of them are holding their Board of Selectmen meeting or their Board of Finance meeting. I'm just wondering, or P&Z meeting, I'm wondering how they feel about it.
Well, I was going to get your sense first about where you wanted to go, and then talk to the presenters, because to me, the presenters could present just from their, over a screen fairly easily. So, and no need to drag them, So that's the approach I was taking, Patty.
Cecil, I don't know the answer to this question, but I know that Jim, we has successfully done a GoToMeeting live, but we tried ever to do a live meeting with a GoToMeeting component that we did live, like the Board of Finance meetings. We aren't able to do them live. We have to do them, tape them and do them on Vimeo. And the reason this was suggested was because we wanted the meeting to be live and not just available later that night on Vimeo.
The answer to your question, Mike, is it is my belief that we can, in fact, do live Zoom meetings for sure. I'm not as definite about GoToMeetings or GoToWebinars, but we've had conversations with the people who make the hardware, and they've given us a very good assurance that we can do live meetings where essentially the control room is joining the meeting as a participant.
Can I ask a quick question?
On Zoom, I knew you could do it. I didn't know if that we had been given permission to use Zoom.
So can I ask a quick? So obviously the Board of Ed has a ton of meetings because I'm on them all the time, and there's Zoom, and that gives you the ability to do public comment and participate. But then there's also the meeting is held. You can watch a live feed of it on the YouTube channel. Does the town have a YouTube channel that we could utilize then?
We do.
We do have a YouTube channel, but we're told we were not allowed to use Zoom for the town part of the meetings.
Well, but I'm saying for like if you want a live feed for people to watch, do we do it on the YouTube channel?
We live feed everything on YouTube.
It would be on YouTube anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, everything is fed.
And, yeah, 7.5 hours a day is simulcast from TV 79. 7.5 hours a day from 4 to 11:30 is on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
7 days a week.
Yeah, right. So
Nice job, Mike.
yeah. So that's the way that we would approach it, is just do it on a virtual basis. And it seems to be, given the times and everything, the best and safest way to go about this. Thank you. So December 7th is the state of the town. The next would be perhaps January 11th Rules Committee. And then that would precede January 25th as a regular meeting. The next question would be whether February, we need a meeting in February or not. We got a lot going on in February, if I recall. We've got budget meetings going on.
We may need a February meeting because the administrator's contract is up, and so it matters if they give it to us in January or we're doing it in February.
Right, okay. That I understand. Well, all right, so we could, well, we'd have to call perhaps a special meeting to do that. Because if we put a date in here, it might not be relevant based upon the timing of the contract. So I guess we would leave February open and then we call a special meeting if we need one. How about that?
As opposed to just putting it down and canceling it if we don't?
6 or 1, half a dozen of the
Have a
others.
meeting.
Right?
I think it's budget season. I'd personally rather have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah.
Right?
I
We can-
also, for people to show up, I think that it's better that it's on their calendar as opposed to trying to call a special.
Okay. So, looking, the 25th, we've had an RTM meeting. So how about, we could do rules on the 8th of February and then, 15 days later. Now, 15 days later, the 8th, the 22nd is an open date, so we could do the 22nd. I mean, there's no, vacation or holiday then. So the 22nd is open, so we could do the 8th and the 22nd of February. And then going from there, you've got, you'd be going in fairly quickly to March 1. Monday, March 1. Any thought about that? 1 and the 15 are good dates for March. Is that too soon after February?
That meeting was canceled, 2019, the March meeting was canceled. I think we didn't have anything for, to put on the agenda.
But we also talked about it could have been an opportunity to use for updating information on a lot of different projects that were coming up.
Yep.
I just feel like that core budget season, the year prior to that, we canceled 2 meetings somewhere between January and like April or May, and that was way too many, I thought. I like to see y'all.
So you want to stay with March 1st and March 15?
Yes.
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 Okay, all right. Then going on next, looking at April, you could, it seems like you could have a meeting in April, which would go, you could do April 5 for rules, and then April 19 for the RTM. Following that, though, you'd probably want to do a rules on the 26th so that you could set the agenda for the budget. I'm concerned that if we didn't do anything late in April on the Rules Committee, that you might have stuff that came up late in April coming onto the budget where that you want to add in, and you'd almost have to have a special meeting or something at that, late in April to set the budget, the agenda for the budget.
Why couldn't we do that on May 3rd?
I think we've had an April rules meeting in the past for a May budget meeting, and I think the end of April makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So we do.
I think that anything that's coming up from a budgetary, the Board of Finance has already voted on it prior to the end of April. So we know pretty much all their resolutions that they would be passing on to us.
Okay.
We're not pretty much, we would know all of them.
All right, so we like having a rules meeting on the 26th.
Okay, did we agree a rules meeting on April 5th also?
Yes.
I didn't hear it. I'm thinking that way it would be the 5th, and then that would be prep for a April 19 RTM meeting. And then the 26th would be setting the agenda for the budget meeting on May 10.
Okay.
Okay,
Then in June 7, perhaps. And then setting up for a June 21. I think that will just about beat the schools getting out.
Yep.
So the 7th of June and the 21st of June for the RTM meeting. 7th would be. Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. Then September 13, you have Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur starts September 15 and runs to the 16th. So we duck it there if we go with the 13th for a rules meeting. And then we have for an RTM meeting. Okay.
Yep.
And then
What dates are you proposing in, what dates are you proposing in September? I dozed off.
13, Doctor, 13 and 27. The 13th for our
Perfect,
rules,
thank you.
27th for the, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
And then for October the 4th and the 18th. The 4th for the rules meeting, the 18th for RTM.
Sounds good, Seth.
November 8 annual meeting, 15 for committee assignments. That's pretty standard stuff. All right, so I'll go back over this for you. The 23rd, the org meeting, the 16th committee assignments, 23rd organization meeting of November, and then December 7th, state of the town. Going from there, January 11th, rules. RTM on the
I didn't catch that, Seth.
Yeah, I got to get over there and catch that pot, whatever that was that hit the floor. Anyway, January 11th for the Rules Committee. The RTM, January 25. Monday, February 8th for Rules. Monday, February 22nd for the full RTM. March 1. Somebody's got to mute their mic here. We're getting the kitchen in full bore. March 1 for the Rules Committee. March 15 for the RTM. April 5 for the Rules Committee. April 19 for the RTM. April 26, a rules meeting. And then May 10 is the budget meeting. Monday, the 7th of June, rules. Monday, June 21st for the RTM. September 13 for the Rules Committee. September 27 for the regular meeting, RTM. Monday, the 4th of October for rules. Monday, October 18 for the RTM. And then we go into November 8th for the annual meeting and the committee assignments on the 15th to 22nd for the organization meeting and December 6th. Full circle to state of the town.
One clarification, Seth. On the May 10th, we've got a budget meeting for the RTM. Are you provisioning, or are we provisioning a rules committee on the 10th as it was drafted?
The 26th would cover. April 26th would cover the May 10 budget.
Okay, so no rules on the 10th. Got it.
further comments? Okay, can I have a motion to set the RTM calendar? Thank you, Monica. I see Monica put her hand up, but can I have a second, please? Yeah, I see Lois. Oh, and Adele. Well, you guys can fight it.
Seth,
I'm there now.
Seth, before we vote,
Yes, sir.
before we vote, I have two questions on next week's meeting. So before we set the calendar for the state of the town, I'd like to discuss next week's meeting first. Are we bringing the vote for the currently vacant ethics seat at the organization meeting, or are we doing it at the state of the town?
I had it for state of the town.
Okay, so then we have to add it on there.
Because that comes up next. We're going to set the agenda for the RTM meeting next.
Okay, I just didn't want it to be lost any place in the shuffle.
Thank you
Why
very much
couldn't we do it earlier?
for keeping me out of trouble, Jack.
Just
Okay.
question, why couldn't we do it earlier?
I don't think next week is an official RTM meeting.
You don't take it. You don't take
You're-
attendance.
Yeah, the organizational meeting is not an official meeting.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so that brings me to my next point on the organization meeting. Can we have, can we set up our own go-to meeting with the committee members and vote on the various spots for that prior to the Monday meeting? Because it was really, it gets painful if we're gonna go committee by committee and have to listen to every discussion.
Yes, sir. After tonight, you guys have the authority to have your own meetings. You can set up a go-to meeting. You have to, you have 2 weeks to get it done in.
I know how to do that. Okay. I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted to
Hang
check,
on
so
just a
I'm good.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's no chairman or anything, for the meeting, for this. So what, how can you do that?
Well, the new chair, the old chairs are still the chairs until the new chairs are voted in. So, and I
Okay.
think it's not a stretch to allow the old chair to set up the meeting. Go to meeting and set them up as you wish.
We're going to try and write up something that gives people options, because you can also do it in Zoom. Those meetings aren't really recorded in a video. So if we come up with a couple of different ways to go to meeting or Zoom, all the responsibility is the newly elected chair would have responsibility for sending in the information. And Seth looked up, researched it, and we have 2 weeks, according to the charter, to be able to send in the information. So that adds a little flexibility and not have the meeting like we had last week.
Just make sure anybody who's
Sounds
going to
good.
do a
Thank you,
Zoom
Lois.
meeting, just make sure anyone who's going to do a Zoom meeting, they have the license so you're not cut off at 40 minutes on the free version. You're going to, whoever's going to,
If this takes more than 40
Take
minutes,
40 minutes.
yes.
I hope that
Well, you
This should be 15-minute meetings.
There are some people with licenses.
Okay. Any other, Jack, any other, or anybody, any other questions? Yeah, that's the way.
No, but I will say that one of the ways that you can trick Zoom, because we do it on our family Zooms, is we have 2 meetings set up alternately. So when they shut us off at the first, we all go to the second.
Let's just be under the wire at 30 minutes,
I
Matt.
heard nothing. I know nothing. I don't dice. All right. Okay. So you can, good. Now let me do, I've got to get organized. Here we go. Okay. So, we will do, we're going to work on now on,
We didn't
setting
vote,
up
did we?
did
We
we
vote on
agree? We got the agenda done, right? Mark, we got the agenda done?
Did we vote on the calendar?
And the calendar?
Yeah, we need to vote on the calendar.
Okay, give
Did
me
we
a,
set the order?
yeah, give me a motion to approve the calendar, please. And I
You already
just,
had you already had the motion.
Just
okay.
need-
Yeah, we did.
Did we
I
I think
vote?
we voted.
Jack just had a question, so now we go right to the vote.
Okay, great. All those in
Correct.
favor, please, of the calendar?
Aye.
All hands. Jack, do I
Jack?
have one from you, sir?
I'm there, I'm sorry. Two hands, two
Jack, are you
hands.
watching another meeting?
It's, he's
No,
watching the
I'm
budget meeting, Jack?
responding to one of my kids.
playing a game on the, right, never mind.
No, I'm
Uh,
responding to one of my kids who asked me
Unanimous,
something.
unanimous. I see no no's, I see no abstentions.
Okay.
Okay, let's set the state of the town.
Okay, Seth, can I ask a question before that? On the caucus meetings, is it going to be up to the district chair to set up the Zooms for their, I think there are at least 3 caucuses and maybe 4 on the 23rd.
Well, they can set them up, they don't all have to be on the 23rd. They have flexibility as to what date, as long as it's 24 hours from today.
No, it's not a question of that. They're already scheduled. I see them already scheduled. It's do those
Okay.
district chairs know they have the responsibility to set the Zoom meeting up for that caucus, and that Kate's not doing it for them, or is Kate doing it for them? I don't know. But I was looking at the calendar today, and there are at least three. There are at least 3 districts in caucus next Monday.
What I will do is double check with them so that it's coordinated. I'll check with Kate, see how it's set up. But as long as they've got it set up, that's fine. They can use it.
Yeah, it's just if they know that they have to set it up.
I'm sorry, what? You said they were already set, right?
They're already on the
meetings are
calendar.
set.
But does the chair of that district know they have the responsibility of setting up the Zoom or the GoToMeeting? Or is that going to be done for them out of Kate's office and they're just going to be giving it?
They would set it up because they have the flexibility to accommodate their membership.
District 3's chair knows that she has set up a Zoom meeting. So District 3 is caucus is taken care of.
Okay.
So is the District 6 caucus. We've already gotten an email about it.
Yeah, I will get something out to each one of them so that it's clear. Sure.
I do have a question on that because of the document that you sent out earlier today, Seth.
Yeah.
So in the past, when you caucus somebody in and they get voted on, they're supposed to be, all members who attend the caucus are supposed to sign a document. How are we doing that?
Yeah, that's,
Can we get a waiver?
we can tear up little pieces of paper and pass them around to everybody. I hear you. We'll get a pronouncement on that, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And this is, if you wonder why we have a software committee, a technology committee, that's the.
No, I know there's ways to electronically sign, but I'm just.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's no ability to. I agree with you. So there may be a bunch of waivers on this stuff. I'll check with town council because there are a lot of waivers granted by the governor on some of this procedures.
Thank you.
But it's a good point. Thanks. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned something.
I was telling you we could do it on chat, that people can type in on chat.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be handed in. Would you, then you would have to print out the chat, Lisa, and in theory, hand that into the town clerk.
But it's also recorded because we're recording the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jack, are you
Thanks.
talking about the election of the officers? I lost track of what it
No.
is.
So when you caucus
Yes.
someone in, you
Oh.
have
sent
to
out a
pictures
document
of everyone in the district.
and so when we're caucusing, when anybody's caucused in, and I remember the form, everybody who's there, who participated in the caucus to elect a member, is supposed to sign that piece of paper. Since, we're not doing electronic signatures, I wasn't sure whether or not we could get a waiver for it.
Yeah.
And just move forward from there, because obviously we're not all going to be signing a piece of paper.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it.
I
Got it,
mean,
Jack.
Lisa could leave it out on the front door and we could go over there and sign it, but
Let me get on the waiver wire, okay?
thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate the insight. Okay, so we will have to figure out how to get this person onto the Board of Ethics. We have the agenda. I sent you a draft. Call to order, acceptance of the agenda, approval of the minutes November 9, announcements that I'll cover Karen Diller during that, state of the town reports, planning and zoning, Board of Education, Board of Finance, and First Selectman. And that's it. Any additions, subtractions, deletions, or comments?
I have one comment, and I don't know if it's appropriate to make it now, but just so we might be prepared, I'm nominating Marcy Minnick for that ethics spot. So
Okay.
I don't know if I formally need to send it in to somebody.
Jack, I gave her a call just to say, hey, Marcy, after all of the excitement, are you still in? And she said, yeah, she very much wants to be on the Board of Ethics.
Well, I'm just letting you know that I'm also nominating her so that everybody's aware.
Okay, great.
I think we do that on the floor, Jack, that the official
Okay.
nomination. Because during the year, you do it on the floor. I think up front, you do the paper. But we'll
That's
double
what I
check.
wanted to check.
We'll double check to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Great, guys. All right, can I have a motion then to set the agenda as outlined for you, excluding the Board of Ethics election? Yes, Monica, gotcha. Mark, a second. Good. Ready to vote? All in favor, please?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
You said excluding the Board of Ethics?
Well, you said that the Board of Ethics, didn't I just hear that we thought that you couldn't do it because it was not a regular, a formal meeting, the state of the town? Is that what I
We
heard?
can't do it next week, but we can do it on the state of
The state of the town,
we've done
yeah.
resolutions.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no.
State of the town, we've done resolutions on.
Including the Board of Ethics.
So yes, it belongs on that agenda.
All right, it's in. If you voted in.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Ready to vote? We have.
So can we change the motion to be, the motion is that as you originally described the agenda for
Right.
the state of the town is the motion that we're voting on. That
Correct.
included the ethics vote.
Correct. Second.
Thank you. I'll second it.
Okay, good. That would.
Can I ask, wait a minute, can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Yes,
Can I ask a question? Will Marcy Minnick be making a speech?
yes.
If
2
we
minutes.
have, if we only have
Not
one,
contested anymore.
If we only
That's
have
it.
one candidate, then we don't need it. But if a second candidate shows up, then we need a speech from each of them.
Right, but on the outside chance,
Okay,
on the outside chance, no one knows who Marcy is, I'll ask her if she'd like to have 2 minutes and grant it if she wants it. Okay?
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but if I recall, even if it was uncontested, the
We were-
candidates were always given an option if they wanted to talk.
Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
So I would tell you, I mean, that's why I listened to the late Gene Coyle several times. So now, if nobody else is running, I wouldn't talk, but nonetheless, you know, they should have the option.
Yes, sir. Trust me, anybody running for ethics from now on is going to get a shot while I'm moderator.
sorry, Seth.
I'll remind you of that when you forget.
Thank you all. Well, everybody was so nice. I'll
Moving on.
I just say I got the message. Thank you. Okay, second.
Okay, I interrupted you. I'm ready to vote.
Yes, we got this seconded, right? Yes, because Jack seconded it. All in favor, please.
I'm putting up two hands. One's mine, one's Adele's.
Okay,
She's
well,
back.
Adele,
Adele's got her hand now.
I can see it well from
Oh,
here.
okay.
Great. It's unanimous. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jack.
Great.
You're welcome.
I always wanted to vote twice, so there you go.
Beth, I got flustered
Have you
there.
been
Who
speaking
moved
to
that? I
Trump?
got Jack on the second. Who moved that?
I thought I had Monica. Monica moved, Jack second. Okay, other business. I put the 2 minutes for speeches in there because I said I would. I asked Frank, if he thought we should put that into the rules of procedure for the RTM. He said he felt it didn't rise to that level. I would just simply say that in a normal meeting with everybody there would have been 4 hands up right in my face after I ruled on the 2 minutes, and we would have avoided the whole thing. If I would have said, oops, wait a minute, what I was looking at during the meeting was a white screen. That's all I can see. So you don't have that same dialogue and interface going on that you would have in a normal meeting. The next item is voting results on go to meeting. Yes, sir.
Seth, before we go there, there's a couple of other solutions that I want to talk about. Now, I made this comment, and I know that pre-work was done on the meeting, but when I have these things, even when I'm doing an F&B meeting, I have little cheat sheets over there to remind me of what needs to be done. And so it's not just the white screen. That was one of the shortcomings of that meeting as well. The other thing that we might consider, and I don't know if this goes into the technology group, but perhaps it makes sense to have 2 people's faces on our meeting so that you and the vice chair or the acting vice chair, standing vice chair, or a member of rules, both are on the screen and both people have an open mic to just make sure that we're going through the agenda. And if something is missed, there's a better opportunity to catch during the meeting. So those are just some thoughts. And I don't know if it should go into Lois's meeting for the group for consideration, but
I hear, but the agenda.
I just don't want to just walk away from this.
Well, some of this, you had 100.
And I agree that had we all been together, it would have been different. We would have beaten you up right then and there.
Exactly.
So,
You from
Right.
back in District 3, Jack.
Right,
Okay.
but since we're not, I just want to say, I look for how do we solve things going forward, because we're going to be in virtual for a while.
Yeah, Lois.
Another suggestion that's been made for consideration is before we vote on things to have a poll that says, is everybody ready to vote? Since when we have 100 members in the body, it's very hard to see whose hands are up. And even if we do it as best as possible, there still could be something. Because if we were sitting in the auditorium, Seth could see the whole auditorium. So that's another consideration. I don't know that we do that for every vote. So that's where we could get into a kind of a hassle.
Well, I usually do that. In the ethics
From
world,
a tech,
that too, but we have the agenda published. We worked on putting
wait,
together a
before
scenario.
we go there, from a technical perspective, when Kate or who's ever managing the meeting says, I'm putting all hand raised down, at that time, there should be a question of whether or not somebody still wants to have their hand raised. And unless the question was called, that gives the opportunity without asking and taking a poll if everybody's ready to vote, because there may be 2 or 3 people who aren't. So I think that's maybe the new process until something better can be figured out.
Well, one solution to that is using the chat facility. I talked to Kate about it, and I said, what can we do? What do you see? And she said, well, use the chat facility. We'll put somebody on the Cecil, perhaps on the chat facility with the ability to step in and say, hey, wait a minute, I got 3 people here saying they haven't been recognized in the chat room, and you can see that very quickly. And I would suggest that as a way to go forward, to use the chat room so we don't miss somebody.
If I may step in.
I agree 100%. The most important thing is to try and get all the thoughts out on the table. And if you miss one, people feel left out, and also you may miss a point that's important. So I would suggest that what we would do going forward is use the chat facility to try and pick up any loose ends there, and tell people very clearly in the beginning, look, if you don't use it just to, for something in general, but if you're in a situation where you're not getting recognized, or you had another point to make, use the chat room so that we'll be watching it carefully, and we'll have somebody monitoring it, and they'll put a halt until we get you recognized and get your thought.
Seth,
how does that sound?
May I interrupt?
Yes.
You're making some assumptions that are not true. One of which is that nobody was watching that. No,
I understood you were. As a matter of fact.
Here's what I want to say about that. When those moments occur, that there are large disagreements, there are many immediate entries into the chat or into the question area, and it's very difficult to keep up with 8, 10, 15 people coming in all at once. What needs to happen if we're going to make this work at all is to slow down a little bit and make sure that if I try to break in, which I have done and not been answered, that there's going to be somebody who can pay. I mean, I had moments where I broke in audibly, I broke in via the chat function, and it just didn't take place. I won't say that happened often, but it certainly did happen, and it happened, unfortunately, at the most critical moments.
Okay.
That's why, at least for the interim, I like when Kate says that she's going to put the hands down, that after she does that, people have the opportunity to raise their hands again if they have something else to say, and go from there.
I agree with Jack. I agree with Cecil. I think we need to slow it down. Even this meeting tonight, right before the vote, people are still saying, wait. So slow it down. But I agree with Jack that there should be some way for people to say, I truly do have a question and my hand isn't up accidentally.
Correct. And I'd just like to say, so for an example, and I've shared this with some of you, I had my hand up twice prior to the ethics discussion kind of even beginning, because I wanted to say, don't forget, we need to allow these folks to speak. And then my hand was put down twice. Now, I don't fault Kate or Cecil or anyone, because 5 people prior to me had their hand up incorrectly. And poor Kate had to say and call out the person's name, and they said, oh no, I'm sorry, I had it wrong. So, you know, she's probably, or whomever might have been under the assumption that I had it wrong. I didn't. I knew what I was doing. I was trying to head off what did occur. But so I would say 2 other things. The fact that it's, and I know we can't change the software, Cecil, but it's green. It's the opposite with green and red. And so I think when the hand is up and the hand is down, I think that's very confusing. And as a result, we might need to make the statement at the beginning of the meeting or right prior to a vote, as people, you know, especially for people who have not used that function or understand the hand up or hand down. My second question is, so just to repeat, I think that perhaps, you know, Kate or whomever needs to say, okay, just a reminder that when the hand, you know, if it's green, it means this. If it's red, it means this. The second thing is,
Patty,
possibility-
can I
wait,
jump
hold
in
on one
just?
second. Let me finish, please.
Okay,
Is
just
there a
add to yours. Go ahead.
possibility- Is there a possibility to have an additional person watching for the hand? Because I feel like Kate is running the meeting and it's a lot for her to try and do. And I know you're doing it, Cecil. It's just a thought about having a third person really watching the hands.
It's certainly not a bad idea, Patty. My focus was principally on the questions/chat area, but I did try frequently to say, you know, there is a hand up. It's possible for someone who's working as an organizer to actually sort the list by whether the hand's up or not, or by whether they have a question. And so I have spent a fair amount of time flipping back and forth between those, trying to keep up with what was going on. I think it's a good idea to have one person focus on the hands and one person focus on the questions separately. I think that's a really good suggestion.
Okay.
Can I just add one more
By
thing?
the
I
way,
mean, I think,
Excuse me, just let me, I talked to Kate. Unfortunately, she's tied up with the Board of Selectmen tonight. It would have been great to have had her here as part of the dialogue, but that's okay. I'm taking notes, and it's terrific. We'll keep working on this. Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
no, it's okay. I was just gonna
Oh,
say,
no, it was
with
you,
the
Teresa.
hand,
I'm sorry.
it's Teresa, with the hands up, hands down thing. I mean, I think even if it's a mistake, I think we owe it to everybody. Even if they say, oh, my hand was up mistakenly, I would rather hear that than have everybody's hand go down and people scrambling to get their hand back up.
I can.
You see,
Everybody, I can see now what you mean when you say you really got to slow down. Because you can't see what's going on, but in the dialogue with you now, I understand what's happening. And so what we will do is just, I will talk to Kate about it, but we will make a huge effort to just take the pace way down. And because you fool yourself, you see everybody in this picture like this, and we're all flying along here, and you don't realize that more time is required. So I agree with you. We will slow this way down. We'll have double on watching the hands, and I guess also we'll need somebody to do the chat room as well, so that we try and have enough safety nets in here where we don't have people who don't get recognized, right? I'm sorry.
I think what you're describing is important. I've been on WebExes where there's 1,000 people on, and you open up a question, and having someone monitoring the chat, specifically the raising the hands, you might need someone for that. But if there's someone tracking the chat and has the ability to get your attention to slow down or pause the meeting, I think is the key. That's what I've observed is when there's a deluge of in this case, chats or questions coming in, having someone who has the ability to track only that while you're running the meeting and Kate's doing what she does, I think will be a big help to you and give you the heads up to slow it down.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Okay.
Dell had a
Yes.
comment. But Dell, did you get a chance to say what you wanted to say?
It's okay. The thought is that, a gentle reminder too for people that when they raise their hand, for instance, to second something or something like that, that they got to remember to take their hand back down. That will mean less hands raised, because I don't think, a lot of times I think people forget.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
Good point, Adele.
Pardon?
That's a really good point. Because a lot of people raise their hands to second things, and we don't know who ends up, because it's 100 people. So especially for newer people, they may not know to take it down. Again, and remind folks for each vote. So we're reminding them before the hands are the opposite color, and then after the vote, just remember to take your hands down.
Okay, guys. Really very, very helpful to get the feedback. All right, the other thing that and is, do we have more on that? I'm sorry, do we have more on that?
You might
Okay.
that the second person is schooled in Robert's Rules of Order.
That's a good point, actually, a really good point.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right, now the next results, there's two things that sort of go together. Non-members of the RTM can, if they are up on the system, can vote. And so the question about, well, in a percentage, what spread on percentage, like let's say the motion passed 55-45. Well, if it passed, 50-49, let's say, is that so narrow that you want to go to a roll call vote? And at what point do you want to do that? And some of it, of course, just could be closeness of a vote in the RTM itself. But the other is that you could have non-members who are affecting the vote. And as I understand it, there's not, and I'm subject to correction here, but there's not much we can do to separate out when members and non-members voted. In the last meeting, my understanding is that they were able to go back and review it, and they found that no non-members voted. But it could happen. And there are different solutions to this. One is simply having it set up so that the meeting is broadcast. If it's broadcast generally, then it's assumed, and it's considered legally correct, that the public has access. The only thing that the public technically has to have is the ability to hear the meeting. They don't have the right to speak, and they don't have the right to vote. So you could eliminate the non-member question just simply by making sure that the meeting was broadcast live, and therefore it's assumed that it's available to the general public to hear. And then
the state of the town is going to be broadcast live.
Right. So in that instance, the only people, as I understand it from town council, the only people that we would have to allow up on our system are members of the representative town meeting.
And that's easy to do.
Yeah.
And the 5 speakers.
Yes, and yes.
Well, just for what it's worth, if you make the speakers presenters, they do not have the right to vote. I, for example, when I'm working as a co-organizer, am not able to vote. I'm not able to respond to polls or anything like that.
Mhm. Well, even then, I mean, if I had a vote, the other question, of course, is, okay, we have nothing but RTM members in the meeting, and there's a close vote. The vote, when you press the button, that records the vote. There's not as I understand it, not a lot of room in there for mistakes. If you press it correctly and press what you want to press, it records the vote.
Right.
So even if it's a 1% differential, it has recorded it correctly. Now, that doesn't mean that we're in a brave new world here, and the Rules Committee could say, well, we feel that anytime you had a spread of X, that it automatically would go to roll call. That's one way of doing it. The other is that we can get a sense of the meeting of what spread ought to be. And then the moderator just simply says, listen, I'd like to know if the body wants a roll call vote. And we can have a vote on that. And then if the body voted to have a roll call vote, that's what we do.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question for Mike and Cecil. When we're doing the poll, do you end up with the total number of people that have voted?
Yes.
Okay, so I think there's two things that go on here. The old accountant in me says that if we know that there's 85 people and you have 85 votes,
Yeah.
that's the first place where you go.
Jack,
If you have 85.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I answered that question maybe a little too precipitously. You know the total number of votes, but not right in that moment. What you know right in that moment is the percentage of people who are voting for each option, but you don't have a count of the total number until later.
Oh.
Okay, how much later?
Well, after the meeting, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So that gets back to what Seth was asking is, what is the percentage differential that goes in? Because we're not going to know, Seth, if it's a 52 to 48, we're going to only know a percentage differential. So the question then is...
We'll know it's 52 to 48, right, Cecil?
You will know
no,
that.
not until after the meeting.
No, you'll know that it's 52% to 48%, not that it's 52 the number to 48 the number.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. So what percentage?
So
but additionally, if you only allow RTM members to register for the meeting, then only RTM members could, by definition, vote. And that, to go back to Seth's point, really is a function of, can we get a public broadcast going of the meeting where we do not have to register non-RTM members as participants.
That's my intention. But it's still, you still have to deal with when the RTM itself votes and the members vote, then it's a close vote. We don't have a lot of those, but well, it could come to 52 to 48.
Let me ask a question. Can the result not be reported as a preliminary and confirmed by the actual count later on after the meeting, when you are able to get the actual count?
Yeah, we need it.
I don't.
Well, no, I think what Seth suggested, and maybe it is if it's within 10% of, because that percentage you're going to know. So it's either going to be 5 or 10% and then a roll call. So that would
that's
be,
a good point.
If it's 55, 45, you go roll call.
Actually,
Yeah,
Cecil,
I agree with.
Do we know how many non-members are participating in a particular meeting? Because I'm thinking, let's say we know that there's 10 non-RTM members participating. That's your variance that dictates a roll call. If 7% of the people participating are non-RTM members, as soon as the margin's within 7%, we got to do a roll call.
Well,
Right?
yes, if we knew, that's why I asked whether or not, how many voted right out front, because that would be the first check. But if nobody has voted, I think at least until we can figure out a better way from your guys' committee, that maybe if it's a 10% differential, which let's see, a 10% differential, yeah, it would be 10 votes, we do a roll call. And you know, how often do we have 10 vote differences that it's 55% to 44%? If we have, you know, only 80 people there, it's going to be less. It could be only 6 votes difference. So I think that 10% is good for when we do a roll call.
Or you could, well, yeah, or you could just say 10%'s the tipping point where you ask. Say, do you want to, you got a 10% difference here. Do you folks want to roll call it? Because it takes a while to roll call.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
And then how do you do
That's
it?
fair.
You do it by a poll?
You do a roll call, most likely.
No, how do you ask prior to the roll call? How would you then ask that question you just said, Seth? Would Kate then do a poll and people would respond via a poll saying, yes, I would like to do a roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you'd have to.
You know my problem with that. Hold on.
It'd be midnight.
If you're on the you're on the 45%, you know, and versus 50, I would expect of whether or not you're doing a roll call, 55% are going to say no. It's and the 45% are going to say yes. So
Well,
I
yeah,
think that
yes,
if
then you
we
do
have
that.
it,
No,
it's
if
standard
people,
practice. I think that's what.
Jack, if people want it, then you do it. You don't need over 50%. I mean, to me, if you're asking, you really want like everyone to say, I don't want a roll call. If 1 or 2 people say they want a roll call, I think you got to do it if you've actually put the question out.
Yeah, I don't think just because, you know, the group lost, they're going to call for a roll call. That doesn't make sense. No one in the room wants that.
I'm just putting it out there so that it's discussed. If you guys don't think that it's appropriate, then that's fine.
Unless you want to put a 10%, your minimum of 10% have to want the roll call. That may be, you want to do that way kind of thing?
That would get really difficult really fast.
No, that's the minority.
Yeah.
Majority. Not gonna work.
Okay, I think it's
That
10%
way
if
lies an
we
infinite
ask,
regret.
we can ask, and then,
The vote is within a
you know,
10% marginal, is what you're saying. If the vote is within
That's
that 10%
correct.
marginal, Seth can say, would you all like to do a roll call? And then you send out a poll.
Yeah.
right, so.
But then
if
aren't the people who aren't allowed to vote on the RTM voting on that poll as well? I mean,
Yes.
I mean, do we not
Exactly.
understand that we're still giving the people who are not on the RTM the
Yeah, but we
ability to?
No one voted. We did just hear that no one voted. So
Let me be clear on where my first direction is. My first direction is we go all virtual for the representative town meeting and broadcast the meeting so that we cover that. And then at least we know who we're dealing with. Okay, friends. Then is there more on that, or are we ready to move on to the next roundup?
I have a Jack, Seth,
Yes.
I don't understand why if we're going to agree to 10%, we don't just agree to 10%. Why do
Just
we
do
have
it.
to ask?
I agree. And then
I agree, Monica.
yeah,
Just
automatically
do it.
then go to roll call. Yes,
Yep.
just do it.
So it's,
Monica, that's what I was proposing. If it's 10% or less, we automatically do a roll call done deal. And if it takes us a little bit longer, it takes us a little bit longer. You know, right now, there's not a lot of controversial things coming up. And hopefully by the time Burr comes around, we'll be back in well.
Okay, Jack, you're really breaking up.
I said I agree with you on that.
What Jack's saying is that 10% is the absolute tipping point. We go to a roll call automatically. Is that what, that's what I'm
That's
hearing?
right.
Is that the sense of this meeting? That it's, if,
I support that.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, Lois, you're my witness. Good. All right. I think we settled that. Thank you.
I have one other thing that I want to just add to that, Seth. While I agreed with what your decision was, my opinion is that these things should be coming to rules. And when you make a decision like that,
We're going to
you
write
should
it up.
notify the members of rules.
Yes.
You
We're
should
gonna
notify the members of
All of
rules
us.
that that was your decision.
Okay.
If
Okay.
the stuff, the information doesn't
Thanks.
come out in the minutes, because the minutes will start getting very complex, we will document a lot of our procedures that we're going to use based on dealing with the virtual nature of our meetings.
Good, good.
Seth, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. What happens now when you have a question on the floor and you ask for comment from the officials, town officials, and RTM members? How about the public? What happens to that?
There isn't that opportunity. They do not have the public doesn't have a right to ask questions, and they don't have a right to speak. They do have the right to have access and to be able to hear the meeting. I didn't make the rule up.
I just wonder because, I mean, I think they do that on the Board of Selectmen, they do it on the Board of Education, they do it on committees. I'm just wondering, in the past,
It's
we've
in the
always,
code. It's in the code. You can see it. It's like
are you talking about just for the December meeting, or are you saying ever?
ever. It's
Because I've
that's in.
seen you allow people to come up and make comments.
Well, no, it's the moderator has the ability to recognize somebody from the general public and ask them if they would like to speak. I have the ability to do that, but they don't have the right to speak. They have to be recognized and by the moderator to be allowed to speak.
But how would they tell you?
So Seth,
I don't know. Yeah.
I think what Seth is saying is that while we have to make ourselves available for the public to listen to our meeting, we do not necessarily need to take public input during our meeting.
Right.
And so during this
Unless
time,
the moderator agree, and in these times, the way we're set up, it's just, we're not organized to be able to do that.
that's correct. So that's the distinction. In the past, we've accommodated, as have other boards, but during this time, they don't necessarily, or they're not necessarily accommodating.
Right.
So we do not have to take public comment.
Correct.
You know, I hate to say it, but there's something about that that just doesn't feel right. Anyway.
Yep.
I agree,
I agree with you. Michelle.
I agree.
Adele, I'll introduce you to Frank Kemp. A year or two from now, you might be able to, never mind. It's like the first sentence in the rules of procedure.
No, I know. I'm not saying it's not there. It just doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Well, I understand, but you know, where are you going to go? If we're in a live meeting and there's folks in the back, I always look in the back and ask if the public has anything to add. But
All right, let's hope we get live sometime in 2021.
We got 100 people. We're just trying to manage that, let alone, you know, like.
I know.
And it is stipulated on the agendas.
It took me and Lois and Monica and Kate and and Lisa, 2 weeks to put together the scenario just to run that meeting. And you're going to say, you're kidding me, with all the scripts and all the, how can that be? And the answer is, well, trust me, there are more things that can go on that you can't even start to identify them all. We got as many as we could anyway.
Well, I
And
guess
this,
in terms,
you
can I
can
just
see
say
what
maybe in terms of feedback then, because I understand we're living in a virtual world now, but to Adele's comment, maybe somewhere out there, there's an RTM email where if people feel that they want to get a comment out to the RTM, they can send it. Remember, they used to send it to Donna and then it was sent out. We haven't had I don't know if we've had any of them in this last year. We've had those in the year past. So maybe that's at least offering an opportunity for our constituents, if they want to give us feedback in some way on a topic, they can follow up via email. Just throwing it out.
You're talking about Patty, you're
then-
talking about after the meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
basically. They can do it or before or after. It sounds like we're not going to address it in the meeting, but at least to let people know there is a way to get their message out to the 100, body RTM. Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
all right.
Hey, Seth, if I can offer up, I think there's some applications that maybe we can talk with our technology committee could explore. There's a program called Menti, which is our bank uses for voting, and it's password protected, and that would allow us to continue to use the existing form exactly the way we've been using it, but to have the vote recorded, password protected to just the RTM members that would have access to voting, and it doesn't take away from the meeting itself. I don't know if it's sanctioned for government use or not, but that's an idea I have to maybe explore. It would function the same way as the polling does now, but it'd be separate and therefore not accessible by the public or the presenters.
Okay.
Just food for thought.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's terrific. That's terrific. Anything more on this? See, I'm slowing down, asking
Well done.
everybody. Okay. I sent you out a note on Appendix B, Part 8, Section 4, and that just has to do with a mandate that if you are a chair, district chair, as soon as the town clerk lets you know that you have a vacancy, then you have 10 days to act, to do something. I didn't make up the word, that's just what it says. And then, but as far as the lead time to call a meeting, it's handled like a special meeting. I went to town council, I sent you a copy of his opinion. And you have, as long as you give 24 hours, it's handled like a special meeting. And you can go ahead and call the caucus. So you don't have to wait 10 days to have the meeting.
Good.
So,
Okay.
can I just confirm then, because my district tried to do this. You guys, for those of you who stuck around for that full RTM meeting last week to listen to District 6 assignments, we had said publicly, we knew we had 2 members caucusing in for 2 open spots. We had talked about trying to get it in before this meeting. Caroline Loves had even said, oh, let me try and get something on the calendar. This was for Thursday. And when she called town hall on Tuesday, she was told she had to wait 10 days. And like I said, it really created a bit of an issue for our district when we were doing our assignments, because we know who the 2 people caucusing in are. We've already gotten their bios and everything. So it's a little frustrating to get, inconsistent information.
Teresa, number one, my apologies. And number 2, to find the answer to this question. I got one opinion written by town council and I said, oh, this is great, but it doesn't answer the key, which is, well, how much lead time do you have to give? What is it? He called state FOIA. to get an opinion from them about how much lead time you have to give. And they said it's handled like a special meeting. But just this particular item in Appendix B has been misconstrued for a while. And all I can say is I couldn't remember that there was a 10-day lead time. And so I went back, I reread it, then I turned it over to town council. I said, I'm reading this thing and all I can see is that in this sentence here, it's just telling the district chair that they have to act. And that's a good thing because you couldn't just leave it lie, you couldn't just forget about it. So you have 10 days to move, but that could be, as far as I can read, you could be making phone calls, trying to get somebody, all of those kinds of things. But as far as calling the meeting, I have town council again calling the FOIA people in the state to get a reading and have it done. So, my apologies to District 6. It just, at least I can say this: we got an answer. Anything else, folks? Slowing down? Has anybody anything else, or are you ready to adjourn? Looks like you're ready to adjourn. Oh, wait a minute. I have Monica. Please.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. So,
A 5-second lag.
okay, so I just want to make sure for our organizational meetings, we're calling them individually. Is that right? What are we doing?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
And we're going to put something out in the next day or two, explains what people can do and how they can approach it.
Yeah.
And just so that we're clear.
Okay, because we'll
Thank
need.
you, Lois.
And I'm fortunate that Cecil is in our district, but we'll need people to run the meetings. So he's, we can't all have him.
And just remember,
the chair
the
turns it
person
over.
who in theory starts that organization meeting, once again, is the person who's been on that committee for the longest continuous time.
Okay.
So if they left, like Cheryl's been on for a long time, but she left 1 year in Park and Rec, she is no longer the longest, I believe, no longer the longest continuous time, even though her total years are greater.
I was going to say a little different. That it's in the RTM, seniority in the RTM. How many years continuous, as you say, have you been in the RTM?
No, it's on the committee. I'm sorry,
Really?
Seth, it's on the committee, not in the RTM. Sorry, you're wrong.
All right.
Okay, you know what? Clara actually sent me an email and asked me about this. And she says that her question was, if someone has been on the RTM for 25 years, but has moved from one district to another. Now she's talking about the district vote that we had, but it does also relate to the committee chairs. So is it on the committee? Is it on the RTM? Which one is it?
It's for the, I'm going to answer this, and Wayne will support me.
Because that's
On
where
the okay, on the committee, it's the longest continuous service on that committee.
I got you. I
In
hear
the
you.
RTM, it's the longest continuous service in the RTM, regardless of what district. So if one individual served 20 years, like I've been moved from 3 districts because of rejiggering. So it doesn't matter if I have the longest continuous service in that district, because we do reorganize district. In that, it's the longest continuous service in the RTM. So if you're off by 1 year,
Okay, so
you
Jack,
lose your continuous.
all right, can we clarify further? Because I think I know what we're talking about more specifically. So I get that you've moved districts because of rejiggering, but what if you move districts because you physically moved where you live? And
That doesn't matter, providing that
Shouldn't matter.
you were elected in your new district.
I think what we're saying is right now I have somebody in my district who's technically not on the RTM at all right now. Do you get what I'm saying?
That's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah.
If somebody's in, let's say, District 3, and it happened in this District 3 where they combined 5 and 3, and we actually had 9 members for 7 spots. What happens is, as long as you're elected during the election, that counts as continuous service. If you end up not running for the election and you're subsequently caucused in, that's a separation of service, and you don't have continuous years any longer.
That's brutal for somebody who's been on for 30 years. Yeah.
I will tell you that the law isn't necessarily fair, but it is what it is.
And with all respect to my colleagues here today, if you don't mind, I might pick up the phone and call a town council and get him to lay it out in spades. Not all of this is crystal clear, I'll tell you. And Jack, you make very, very good points. Not a question of that. All right, anything more, folks?
So just to clarify, the meeting is run by the person who's been on the committee the longest, but the person who has the responsibility of setting up the Zoom of that organizational meeting for that committee is the current chair?
Right.
That is correct. And all they do, the first person, obviously, the same thing we did in the districts, you ask for the nominee. As soon as the chair is elected, then that person gives up their authority to the chair, who runs the rest of the district meeting.
Yep.
Sorry, the rest of the committee meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay, this is Frank. Coming on by phone now. I lost the video. I would like to get some guidance from my colleagues. You have a small committee, such as TGS and I, with 3 open spots. I think it's 10 minus the 3, so probably only 7. What would you advise? How long would it be advisable to hold off the organization meeting while you're waiting for the new appointees? Because we.
Yeah, you have 2 weeks from today.
Well, the town clerk office puts everything together. They send something out, right? They put it on the website.
I think Lois had said at the beginning of the meeting, you have 2 weeks from today to have your organization handed in to the town clerk. So, regardless.
But nobody does that.
You have
Everybody
7 members
gets it in the
organized.
next day. I mean, everybody gets it in the next day.
Right.
So.
Thanks.
Okay.
I think, Frank, the caucuses are probably already set, the new members that you're going to get. So I know one is on the 23rd. I don't know when District 6 is. That's when District 3 is. So you should know then at least one member from District 3 a week from today.
The same for District 6. We're a week from today as well.
Good. That's
right,
great.
but unless they're sworn in, they're not on that committee
there's
yet
lots of
until the
problems
next
because
rules meeting.
They'd be participating in a meeting that they're not.
Yes. So we had that problem a couple of years ago with education, where we caucused somebody in on District 6, like right around this point, but our rules meeting didn't approve her on, actually, it was Education F&B. And they came to meetings, but they couldn't vote on anything. But we encouraged them to go to the meetings because they were important committees and those were important meetings that they could just, once they were officially on.
Okay, sorry.
They were well versed.
Yeah. Sorry, my mistake there.
Yes, that's correct.
So District 3 and District 6 will be providing those 3 missing members for TGS&A. And so I'll reach out and get their names of the tentative people and invite them to the meeting, but be careful not to let them vote. Sound reasonable?
Sounds right.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
exactly.
I don't want any of you taking my head off if that's what I'm going to do.
No,
Wait.
No, that would be
Appreciate
just too much fun.
Wait, I do it.
Frank.
Frank gets all 3? Frank, you get all 3?
No,
new-
there's others that are getting, he just knows there's 3 going to his committee where there are 3 open spots who are going to be assigned shortly.
No, okay.
But what I've learned in the last couple of minutes, by the way, I've been having trouble with my cable here. A lot of the cable on Seagate Road is laying down on the ground. I think a squirrel walked across it or something like that.
Glad you're okay, Frank.
you're looking good, Frank.
But what I did learn before I faded out is that we're obliged. We're supposed to have the meeting within the next 2 weeks, right?
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Just Fred.
Anything more? Anybody else?
I move to adjourn.
I'm watching the chat room.
That
I
was
still
good.
move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave the room.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Glad
Thank you.
everybody's
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you all.